Hey guys, it's Nathan from PopLab, and today we're going to have a look at one of the most iconic pop songs of the Millennium era. We're going to have a look at Lady Gaga's Poker Face. This song was produced by Moroccan hit producer Red One, who's also produced other Gaga songs such as Just Dance and Bad Romance. This song is almost 15 years old and has some super weird sound choices because everything is just sounding so dirty. But in my opinion, this is also kind of what gave the song the sound character and what makes the song so unique and so memorable. The FLP, the stems, and all the presets will be available inside the Secret Producer Club. You will also get a more detailed breakdown of this song, a more detailed video. You can find a link for in the description below. Those of you who already know me, you guys know that I usually hunt for the original presets used in the original song. But I've been doing this for so many years and honestly I just got so tired of it because it's honestly just really boring and I kind of wanted a new challenge. So this time I actually recreated all the sounds from scratch. I used some presets, but most of what I used is actually recreated from scratch. I even recreated the kick from scratch. And the good thing about this is that you can use these presets inside Sylenth and Serum as well, as long as you have these. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the remake. This very famous vocal sample in the intro here is actually a sample from a 70s disco song. It's called Ma Baker by Boney M. And obviously this is not the original sample, this was remade, but it's actually sampled from that 70s disco song. So we're first gonna start off with the melodic structure of the song, because there's basically two melodies that are carrying the entire song. And the first one is the signature intro synth here, which then later turns into this more open and aggressive sound which sounds like this. And then we also got the famous square lead here, which was also used in Just Dance. And these three sounds basically cover the entire song and carry the entire song. For the intro pad sound, I'm using a patch I made with Sylenth One. This is basically two parts. We have part A, which sounds like this, which is basically 8 voices of unison, slightly detuned and shaped to a plug with the cutoff. And then we have the B part, which is the tail of the sound. And you can hear it has this really phasey sound at the end, which you can achieve by using multiple voices of unison, detuning them, and then using the retrigger function. I actually spent quite a lot of time getting this sound right. I think I have over 15 different variations of this sound. And in the effects section, I'm using a 4th delay here that is centered, and you can also hear that in the original. The next we got the rave saw here, which is playing the same melody but is more aggressive and a more open sound layered on top of it. For this one I'm using two different layers here. We got the top layer, which is the main layer also. This is 5 voices of unison, pretty strong detuned and placed in different octaves. You can see this is on -2 and on -1 and it sounds like this. And on top of that, I'm layering this layer here. This patch here is a tweaked Sylenth One preset that I got from a YouTuber who also did a Poker Face remake, and he shared this preset with me. And together they sound like this. Next, we got the infamous square lead that was also used in Lady Gaga's Just Dance. Originally, this preset is actually from Logic's ES2 synth. It's called Classic Techno Lead, but if you play back the original, it actually sounds quite different, so Red One actually changed quite a lot about the sound. I started off with this patch from Sam Smyers. He's a YouTuber and sound designer who basically took the settings from the ES2 patch in Logic and copied it over to Serum. What's happening here is it's a square wave that is modulated by a sine wave using frequency modulation here. And there's also a noise oscillator, a sub oscillator that is using a saw wave, very low volume here. And most importantly, this resonance filter that is shaping the tone more. And this one sounds like this. And as you can hear, the foundation of the sound is right, but it doesn't sound really like the original in the song. And so I took that patch and changed the waveform here to an analog Juno waveform. I also turned off the sub oscillator and I changed the frequency completely. Right now it sounds a little weird. I then added this phase filter here, which gets rid of the strong resonance. It still shapes the tone, but it makes it a little bit more pleasant to listen to. I'm using a bunch of processing on this one, as you can see. I actually have 2 channels here, but the most important one is this guitar rig preset. So if I turn this up, you can hear it actually gets more pleasant to listen to. And then also adding some saturation, noise, and wow and flutter here. On top of that, I'm using the Floik Voice Studio, which is actually a vocal compressor. I got this from a German YouTuber called FL Flo. It's made for vocals, but it sounds great on synths as well. And it just gives it like a more modern and punchy sound. And then I'm also using a transient processor to make the sound a little bit more snappy, as well as a 4th stereo delay. Without the processing, it sounds like this. And then with, it sounds like this. And if we put all these 3 sounds together, it sounds like this. In the pre-chorus section, we got another layer supporting the square lead, which sounds like this. And for this one, I'm actually using 4 oscillators, all on saw wave. We only got one that has a little bit of white noise here. And most importantly is the pitch envelope, which gives it that signature attack of the sound. The bass in this one is playing a quite simple pattern here. And it's actually a quite weird sound if you put it together with the rest of the song, because it doesn't really make sense with what the other instruments are playing. At first, I wasn't really sure if I had the right notes, but it actually sounds like this in the original as well. Let's just play it back. You can kind of hear that it almost sounds like a really muddy mix, but it's a choice here, and it's kind of what makes it sound so dirty and what adds to the character of the whole song. And I made this using 3 different layers. We're gonna use an 808 for the sub bass here, which sounds like this. And as you can see, this also has a pitch envelope, which basically gives it that signature 808 attack. Then for the mid layer, I'm using this Dog Respace, which I also made inside Sylenth. And on top of that, we're having this factory preset from the Sylenth One stock library. I tweaked that one and processed it also. Then finally, we're coming to this massive synth layer that is used in the chorus. I mean, look at these chords here. This is just absolutely crazy. It sounds like this. I made this using 4 different patches, and we got these strings from Sylenth, which are basically just playing chords here. Then we got the next layer, which is basically playing mostly bass notes. This is also a stock preset from the Sylenth One factory library. Then we got the key transflute preset. And finally the ARP chord pad, also from the factory library, playing exactly the same MIDI as the patch before. And all together they make this massive heavenly synth patch. Finally, we're coming to the last sound, which is the LFO synth used in the bridge of the song. And this melody is super genius because it sounds very familiar, and the trick here is that it's actually the melody right before the chorus. And I made this one using simply a square patch, and it has the mono legato again with the portamento, which then sounds like this. Afterwards, I duplicated this patch and sent it to 2 different channels, and I panned one to the left side and the other one to the right side. And now the trick comes with the LFO that is used here, which is using Shaperbox with a 16-note rhythm. This one is used for the left channel and this one is used for the right channel. And to make it a little bit more smooth, I added a OTT multiband compressor, turning down the high frequency band quite a lot. Both of these patches also have a second oscillator here, which is 1 octave above, and the volume knob here is controlled by this automation here on both synths. So basically, once this automation goes up, there's another octave added, which sounds like this. And if we put this into the song, it sounds like this. The drums for this one are kept quite simple, as you can see. We have this really aggressive and dirty kick, which I made in Serum. And the most important part here is the distortion. So if we turn off the distortion, it sounds like this. And then with the distortion, it sounds like this. And I'm using the diode 2 distortion, and I'm also using a post high cut here. The clap here, which is basically also a snare, is a classic electro house Vengeance type of snare. Then there's this noise loop here, which I'm pretty sure Red One used a loop. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the original loop, so what I used here is from Vengeance Essential Club Sounds Volume 1, which normally sounds like this. And I added a bit crusher from Serum, and after that it sounds like this. For the hi-hats, I'm using the Studio Heavy kit from Logic. This one is a sampled instrument, and the most important part about this sound is that you actually turn it to mono and then use some kind of phaser or flanger effect. I used the hyperdimension, which basically creates a similar effect. Originally it sounded like this here. And when we apply effects and turn it to mono, it sounds like this. Knowing Red One uses Logic, I also used 3 crashes from Logic. For the FX, you can see that we actually only got 2 different FX. So we got the signature Red One horn, which I made out of this Nexus presets from Deep House 2. And this is how it sounded before. The sound is also used multiple times throughout the entire song. Then we also got this downsweep FX here. This one is actually a chopped sample from Vengeance Electro Essentials. It's always used right before the chorus here. And this is pretty much the entire song. It is super simple arranged, it is super smartly arranged. Did you notice that the entire song isn't using any sidechain at all? The song is just so fascinating because there's so many weird choices in there that ended up turning it basically into this masterpiece. But without that, it wouldn't be what it is now. I'm a huge fan of the Millennium Pop era, which is basically all the pop music from 2000 to 2012. So let me know if you want to see more of this type of videos. If you want to have the project file as well as the presets and the stems, come and join the Secret Producer Club. You will also get a more in-depth breakdown of the song where I show you all the secret production techniques as well as how I made all these sounds. You will, by the way, get this once every month, and we're gonna pick a different hit every month. So you're basically getting plenty of radio-ready sounds as well as inspirational and in-depth breakdown sessions that keep you producing. And here's also a little teaser of what's coming next. I'm currently working on an exclusive vocal library with over 20 professional vocals that will be available in the next weeks, probably already. It's gonna be super sick, and you can use these vocals to produce your next song. And for the next 3 days, you can actually join the Pop Lab Secret Producer Club at a special discount rate. You can find a link for this in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and we'll see each other in the next one.